Okay, so my talk tonight, I'm actually the token serious talk, so there has to be one in every crowd. So this is about finding the values and ideas. And by values, I don't necessarily mean morals, and I don't mean to compare ideas. It's about the idea of trying to find the worth within an idea. And that can be kind of tricky sometimes because ideas a lot of times come to us with no real cost involved. I mean, sure, some of us we dedicate out time to be creative and to think about creative things, but sometimes it just comes to you out of nowhere. And so the thing about that is, when it comes to you with no invested cost, how do you figure out what value really is? Well, value has a real problem because it involves context. Different values matter to different people because of all the different scenarios that are involved, the way that they analyze exactly how each idea impacts themselves or impacts their situation. So just the idea of a person with a glass of water, it's a totally different idea to somebody who's in a desert as opposed to somebody who may be drowning. You know, same glass of water, totally different value. Now, is that to say that that glass of water doesn't have an absolute value? Not at all. There's the concept that it does have a value, but the problem is that's really, really hard to figure out. Why is it hard to figure out? Because everything's got a context. So the way that we look at context is sometimes we try and frame that in some way. And one of the easiest ways we frame that is in terms of money. Now, a lot of people think that, okay, well, I understand what price is or what cost is. Well, but then ask yourself, if I ask you to describe what a dollar is worth, how do you describe that without relating that to something else? So instead of money, sometimes we try and relate it to people. And with people, we got, once again, the problem of context coming back in again. Once again, because everyone's situation is different. Everyone has different experiences and different concepts. So we ask ourselves, you know, is value something that's just individual? Is it totally relative? Does it just come down to who we are? Well, I'd like to think that we could all have certain things that we think are important. But do we really know what those are? So when we come in and we get all these ideas, why does this discussion even matter? Because when we think about things, when we make decisions, those decisions are based upon, they're based upon facts, and then they're based upon context. So if we understand what the facts are, then we're left with trying to figure out what the context is and the way that we figure all this out. Now, this stuff up here, this chicken scratch, is all hypothetical type stuff. But this is how economists think about things. They try and put things in terms of math and in terms of data, and then they try and provide context. So what are some of the things that we can know? Well, nowadays, especially with the internet and with so much data available, there's a lot of stuff out there in terms of prices or in terms of amounts that we can know, but there's a whole lot of stuff that we can't know, and it typically revolves around people. So we can't possibly know when an idea comes up how everybody that might impact, exactly how they might feel about that, because we can't know their experiences. We can't know how they would take that idea. So what comes in with that? We understand that value ultimately comes down to two things. So it's a good thing that we understand how that value is put together. And even more importantly, is when we understand what we do have, when we understand what's important, all the information that we can get, we finally start to understand exactly what it is that we need to focus on and where all of our misunderstandings come from in the first place. So it gives us at least a guideline to try and understand how we can figure out what it is that we're disagreeing about. So why is that important? Because everyone seems to think that people just are automatically rational actors, that people understand and they make rational decisions. All you have to do is go spend some time watching something like CNBC, or watch something like CNN, or watch something like C-SPAN, and just see how rational people really are. So you might ask yourself, let's say, for instance, something like energy awareness, or the idea that we should be energy independent. Well, does that mean that we save energy, or does that mean that we reduce the energy that we use? And when it comes time to decide that, do we decide, okay, we're going to do this by throwing it open to business, or are we going to do this by government telling us what we can and can't do? And then more importantly, we start to figure out, okay, what's the impact on the people involved? The people whose jobs are created, the people whose jobs are destroyed, the people who have choice now with what they want to do with their money versus the people who don't have the money to make choices. When we get together and we finally understand what all the situations are around everybody, then we can start to wrap our heads around exactly what the questions are and exactly how my questions may be different than your questions, may be different than your questions. So at the end of the day, why is it important to try and figure out value? Because value is the thing that we all should be striving for. Value is the thing that we should all be looking for all the time, because that's the thing that brings us together, and that's the things that we should always try to bring to everything that is we do, including the things that we say. Thank you.